Ever wonder why brilliant minds seem cursed? History's greatest thinkers often suffered tremendously. Tesla died isolated, surrounded by pigeons. Van Gogh's artistic genius came with mental torment. The stunning mathematician John Nash battled severe psychological issues for decades. And Nietzsche himself collapsed into an 11-year silence after a mental breakdown. The truth nobody talks about: your intelligence might be your greatest psychological liability. While we celebrate genius and pursue knowledge, we rarely acknowledge the hidden cost that comes with exceptional mental capacity. Research shows people with above-average intelligence face significantly higher rates of overthinking, rumination, existential anxiety, and social disconnection. Even more revealing, brain scan studies suggest that the same neural networks enabling profound pattern recognition and abstract thinking, hallmarks of exceptional intelligence, show striking similarities to patterns that create vulnerability to psychological distress. What if your mind's extraordinary abilities are simultaneously putting you at risk? Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't theorizing when he warned about gazing into the abyss. He was documenting the psychological danger that comes when your mind cuts through comfortable illusions most people never question. What if your intelligence isn't just a talent, but a potential burden you need to learn how to manage before it overwhelms you? Join me as we explore the hidden price of profound intelligence, why society so often misunderstands its most insightful members, and whether Nietzsche's warnings apply to your own mental landscape. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. These words from Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil weren't just philosophical wordplay. They were a warning born from personal experience. The vertigo that comes when a brilliant mind begins questioning everything it once took for granted. For the exceptionally intelligent, the abyss isn't physical, but cognitive. That unsettling void where traditional meaning systems collapse under scrutiny. When your mind develops the ability to question everything, from religious beliefs to moral codes, from political structures to social norms, you risk losing the mental supports that keep most people stable. Consider the case of Alan Turing, whose algorithmic thinking revolutionized computing. Yet this same analytical brilliance that could crack Enigma code couldn't reconcile the illogical prejudices of his era. Turing's analytical approach to problems, somewhat paralleling Nietzsche's concept of the will to power, encountered social boundaries that defied logical analysis. The society he helped save ultimately rejected him, not because his reasoning was flawed, but because it was too clear-sighted. Similarly, consider Hypatia of Alexandria, the brilliant mathematician and philosopher of the 4th century whose intellectual prowess threatened established authorities. Her commitment to questioning prevailing assumptions ultimately led to her tragic end, an extreme example of how societies often respond when exceptional minds challenge fundamental beliefs. Most people navigate life with psychological guardrails, unquestioned assumptions about right and wrong, purpose and meaning. These aren't just opinions, they're the invisible infrastructure supporting mental stability. But when exceptional intelligence dissolves these comforting illusions, what remains? This is what Nietzsche referred to when discussing the death of God. Not merely religious doubt, but a profound realization that values, once considered absolute, are actually human creations, leaving us with the terrifying freedom and responsibility to create meaning in a universe that offers none inherently. Isolation, as Nietzsche knew, is the tax genius pays for clarity. When you begin questioning what others take for granted, you find yourself increasingly alone. But what if this isolation isn't just a curse, but potentially the source of your greatest insights? From the abyss of knowledge, we turn to perhaps Nietzsche's most personal insight, the unbearable solitude that accompanies exceptional perception. Do you see the same world others do? For the exceptionally intelligent, the answer is often a resounding no. And therein lies a profound source of psychological suffering that Nietzsche understood intimately. To be alone is the fate of all great minds, Schopenhauer observed, a sentiment that resonated deeply with Nietzsche. But this isolation isn't merely preferring solitude. It's the existential loneliness of perceiving layers of reality others cannot see. This isolation isn't just philosophical abstraction, it's neurobiological reality. Recent brain imaging research reveals that social rejection activates the same neural circuits as physical pain. When your perception sets you apart, this pain becomes chronic, creating a biological pathway to overthinking and worry that has nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with human evolution. Nikola Tesla exemplified this isolating hyper-awareness. His mind could visualize complete electrical systems in perfect detail, seeing alternating current and wireless technology decades before others could comprehend them. Yet this same perceptual gift made everyday human connection nearly impossible. The present is theirs, but the future for which I really work is mine. Tesla's forward-thinking perspective resembles what Nietzsche explored in his concept of the Übermensch, a mind capable of creating new values after seeing through cultural illusions. Consider to the Indian mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan, whose extraordinary mathematical intuition produced formulas he claimed were revealed to him in dreams. While his contemporaries at Cambridge required rigorous proofs for concepts he grasped intuitively, Ramanujan existed in a mathematical reality few could access. His early death came after years of isolation, both cultural and intellectual. Imagine for a moment, what insights do you possess that others seem blind to? How does this awareness affect your connections with others? The burden of perception often separates the highly intelligent from potential companions. As Tesla aged, his isolation intensified. While his contemporaries struggled to grasp his visions, he couldn't understand their limitations. By his later years, he preferred the company of birds to people, a brilliant mind, too far beyond its time to find true peers. Nietzsche's brilliance wasn't merely intellectual, it was perceptual. He saw through conventions others mistook for eternal truths. Nietzsche's abyss isn't merely philosophical, it's biological. The exceptionally intelligent brain functions differently, creating both extraordinary capacity and extraordinary vulnerability. But what happens when you can't turn off this heightened awareness, when your mind refuses to rest? That's where we discover the next dimension of intelligence's double-edged nature. 3 a.m. The world sleeps, but your mind races, analyzing, connecting, questioning, in endless loops that refuse to quiet. This isn't ordinary restlessness. It's what researchers now call relentless mental loops, and it's disproportionately common among the highly intelligent. The bad conscience is an illness. There is no doubt about that. But an illness, as pregnancy, is an illness. Nietzsche wrote in On the Genealogy of Morals. For the extraordinarily intelligent, this ever-present consciousness becomes both burden and potential source of creation. This metaphor captures how intellectual acuity becomes self-torture. The analytical capacity that solves complex problems also turns inward, dissecting one's own thoughts and feelings with merciless precision. Modern neuroscience confirms what Nietzsche intuited. Highly intelligent brains show increased connectivity between regions typically operating independently. Think of it like a highway system. While most brains have local roads connecting nearby towns, the highly intelligent mind has expressways linking distant regions that don't normally communicate. This hyperconnectivity enables the pattern recognition that defines genius. But it also creates a mind resistant to quieting. When thoughts trigger other thoughts in cascading networks, the result is what psychologists call rumination, the recursive overthinking that can lead to persistent worry. Vincent van Gogh embodied this double-edged gift. His extraordinary perception transformed how he saw light, color, and motion, creating art that still moves us today. Yet this same perception denied him peace. I put my heart and soul into my work and have lost my mind in the process. The tyranny of consciousness that Nietzsche warned against claimed Van Gogh as its victim. His brilliance and suffering, inseparable aspects of the same cognitive intensity. Let me propose an experiment. For the next 60 seconds, try not to think about anything. Notice how your consciousness resists this command, generating thoughts about not thinking. This small experience offers a glimpse into what highly intelligent minds face constantly, the inability to quiet an overactive consciousness. The endless recursion of thought is what Nietzsche referred to as the spirit of gravity, the heaviness that comes from a mind constantly reflecting upon itself. But what if we could transform this burden into power? Before we explore that possibility, we must confront perhaps intelligence's cruelest burden, the capacity to feel suffering beyond personal experience. A child faces hardship every few seconds somewhere in the world. Environmental challenges threaten countless species. Systemic problems ensure suffering for billions. Most people register these facts briefly before mental defense mechanisms activate, allowing functional forgetting. But what if your mind won't let you look away? The exceptionally intelligent often lack these protective psychological filters. What Nietzsche recognized and modern psychology confirms is that higher intelligence correlates with greater cognitive empathy, the ability to truly understand others' perspectives and suffering. This isn't just emotional sensitivity, it's the cognitive capacity to model complex systems and their human impact simultaneously. This sobering assessment captures the paralysis that comes from seeing too clearly. For a mind capable of grasping both the intimate details of individual suffering and its systemic causes, the resulting tension can be psychologically devastating. Consider Rachel Carson, whose scientific brilliance allowed her to recognize environmental impacts of certain chemicals long before others. Her book, Silent Spring, fundamentally changed environmental consciousness. But the clarity with which she perceived ecological challenges contributed to profound personal suffering. Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts, she wrote. Yet this same contemplation brought awareness of destruction that few could bear. Similarly, Emmy Noether, despite revolutionary contributions to physics and mathematics, struggled with the ethical implications of science in the early 20th century. Her abstract thinking couldn't be separated from the concrete outcomes caused by technologies her theoretical work helped enable. When was the last time you felt overwhelmed by awareness of suffering beyond your control? How did you manage to function despite this knowledge? The capacity to maintain effectiveness despite comprehensive awareness represents one of intelligence's greatest challenges. Unlike religious traditions that promise ultimate justice or redemption, Nietzsche offered no cosmic comfort, only the challenge to affirm life in the face of complete understanding. This remains, perhaps, intelligence's greatest challenge. Maintaining functionality despite awareness. Awareness without agency becomes psychological torture. This is why Nietzsche insisted that knowledge must serve life, not the reverse. How do we reconcile what we know with how we must live. This question leads us to perhaps intelligence's most dangerous burden, what it forces us to confront about social reality itself. In 2013, Edward Snowden revealed extensive surveillance programs to the public. His exceptional understanding of both technology and ethics led him to conclude that people deserve to know the truth. This decision cost him his career, homeland, and personal safety. 5 centuries earlier, Galileo faced house arrest for insisting the Earth revolves around the sun. Different eras, same pattern. Exceptional minds often see truth that threatens social order. Nietzsche recognized this dangerous territory when he wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you." This creates an impossible situation for highly intelligent individuals: speak the truth and face rejection, or participate in collective fictions and betray your own understanding. Human societies function through shared narratives, not just religious or cultural stories, but everyday constructs about fairness, justice, progress, and meaning. These structures enable cooperation at scale, but crumble under rigorous examination. This is what Nietzsche analyzed as the herd instinct, the tendency of groups to prioritize cohesion over truth. This isn't weakness, but evolution. Groups with strong moral consensus historically survived better than those fragmented by individual judgment. But what happens to those whose intelligence prevents them from accepting unjustified consensus? Frances Hogan, the Facebook whistleblower, exemplifies this dilemma in the digital age. Her data science expertise helped her recognize how the platform's algorithms affected users. Revealing these insights meant sacrificing her career and facing significant consequences. Like Nietzsche's concept of the free spirit, she chose truthfulness over comfort, facing the consequences of seeing beyond accepted narratives. Cognitive dissonance, the psychological stress of holding contradictory beliefs, becomes chronic for intelligent people who see through social constructs yet need to function within them. Learning to navigate this dissonance without becoming cynical or disengaged represents a crucial skill. The path of truth has always been treacherous. Nietzsche's genius was recognizing that this isn't accidental, but structural. Societies naturally resist destabilizing insights. But what if these very challenges could become the source of your greatest contributions? Exceptional intelligence isn't merely a burden. In Nietzsche's most profound insight, we discover how the very forces threatening mental well-being might lead to extraordinary creation. On November 28, 1885, while struggling with deteriorating health and increasing isolation, Nietzsche wrote to his friend Franz Overbeck, "I am utterly amazed, utterly enchanted. I have a precursor, and what a precursor!" He had discovered Dusti, another mind that had gazed into the abyss and transformed that vision into art. In this moment of connection across time and space, Nietzsche experienced what he would later call the redemption of suffering through form. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star, Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This poetic insight captures one of his most profound understandings about exceptional intelligence, that the same forces which threaten psychological stability, when properly channeled, can produce transcendent creativity. Throughout history, many brilliant minds found salvation not by suppressing their intensity, but by redirecting it into creative expression. The chaos of seeing too much, knowing too deeply, becomes bearable when transfigured into art, science, philosophy, or innovation. Consider Ludwig van Beethoven. Going deaf, perhaps the cruelest fate for a composer, could have led him into despair. Yet this catastrophe, combined with his exceptional musical intelligence, drove him deeper into uncharted territory. He composed his late string quartets in complete silence, exploring emotional and musical dimensions beyond the reach of those with perfect hearing. In this, Beethoven embodied Nietzsche's idea of the will to power as a creative force, turning limitation into possibility. Now pause. Think of a perception or understanding that has caused you suffering. How might you transform that insight into creative expression? What medium, writing, music, movement, design, would best capture and transmute this awareness? Modern neuroscience supports what these artists intuited. Creative expression activates reward pathways in the brain that counteract stress hormones. It also engages the prefrontal cortex, giving chaotic thought patterns a structured outlet. For the exceptionally intelligent, creativity is not just self-expression, it is neurological self-regulation. To access this integration, it helps to find a form of creativity that matches your cognitive style. Whether it's visual art, code, music, systems thinking, or storytelling, the key is consistency over inspiration. A regular creative practice allows for continuous psychological processing. Finding the right balance between structure and freedom within the work itself creates both the safety and challenge that an exceptional mind needs. Creativity transforms the burdens of intelligence into gifts. The abyss of knowledge becomes a source of original insight. The exile of hyper-awareness becomes a unique perspective. The tyranny of consciousness becomes focused intensity. The weight of compassion becomes a drive for meaningful change. And social conflict, often so isolating, becomes a revolutionary vision. This alchemy, turning psychological lead into creative gold, may be what ultimately saves exceptional minds from their own perceptions. But creativity alone is not enough. The question remains, how do we maintain the delicate balance between brilliance and breakdown? Nietzsche's final wisdom suggests that the path forward lies not in escape nor in suppression, but in the constant reshaping of chaos into form. In that act, perhaps lies the truest redemption. On a January morning in 1889 in Turin, Nietzsche witnessed a horse being mistreated by its owner. He threw his arms around the animal's neck, collapsed to the ground, and never regained his mental clarity. The mind that had warned others about the psychological dangers of exceptional intelligence ultimately succumbed to those very dangers. But what if Nietzsche had possessed the integration tools now available? What if he had understood his own brilliance, not just philosophically, but neurologically? His tragic end wasn't inevitable. It reflects the limited understanding of his era. You need chaos in your soul to give birth to a dancing star, Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This wasn't just poetic metaphor, but practical guidance. Rather than fighting against the threatening chaos of overwhelming perception, Nietzsche suggested embracing it, learning to dance with mental intensity rather than succumbing to it. The mathematician John Nash exemplifies this dance. After years struggling with severe mental challenges, Nash developed what he called a diet of the mind, learning to recognize and selectively engage with his unique thought patterns. He didn't recover in the conventional sense, but learned to coexist with his exceptional mind, eventually returning to mathematical work and receiving the Nobel Prize. Nash achieved what Nietzsche called becoming who you are, integration rather than normalization. Similarly instructive is the journey of Temple Grandin, whose autism gave her unique perception that made human society baffling but animal behavior transparent. Rather than trying to normalize her thinking, she leveraged her different cognitive style to revolutionize animal welfare. "I am different, not less," she asserts. a statement that echoes Nietzsche's emphasis on embracing rather than suppressing cognitive uniqueness. Imagine your intelligence not as something that separates you from others, but as a unique instrument that perceives different frequencies of reality. How would this perspective shift your relationship with your own mind? Can we learn to embrace our mental intensity while also finding peace? As we conclude our exploration, let's consider what Nietzsche's warnings and wisdom might mean for those navigating exceptional intelligence in today's complex world. We've traveled through the perilous landscape where exceptional intelligence meets psychological well-being, from the abyss of knowledge to the creative dance with mental intensity. What conclusions can we draw from Nietzsche's insights, historical examples, and modern understanding? Perhaps the most important is that exceptional intelligence isn't inherently destabilizing. It's the relationship between intelligence and psychological integration that determines whether brilliance leads to breakdown or breakthrough. Those who thrive with exceptional minds aren't those who think less deeply, but those who develop frameworks for carrying what they perceive. Without music, life would be a mistake, Nietzsche wrote in Twilight of the Idols. This insight captures a crucial truth that preserving aesthetic appreciation alongside analytical power allows intelligence to remain generative rather than destructive. Without this balance, knowledge becomes merely burden rather than illumination. Today's information ecosystem presents unique challenges. We're bombarded with more data than any human can integrate, while social media simultaneously connects and isolates us. The exceptionally intelligent may find themselves more aware than ever of humanity's collective challenges, while feeling increasingly powerless to address them. For those navigating exceptional intelligence in this environment, several practices prove essential. First, curate information intake strategically. The intelligent mind's hunger for knowledge becomes self-destructive without boundaries. Deliberately choosing quality over quantity creates space for deep processing. Second, build a personal philosophical framework. Whether through existing traditions or self-created systems, having structured approaches to existential questions prevents constant reinvention of foundational thinking. Third, find your cognitive tribe, even if scattered across continents. Online communities, specialized conferences, and collaborative projects connect minds operating at similar levels, reducing the isolation of exceptional perception. Fourth, develop regular creative practice that transforms insight into tangible expression. Whether writing, art, design, or innovative problem-solving, this translation process integrates what might otherwise remain fragmented perception. Finally, remember Nietzsche's ultimate wisdom, that intelligence finds its highest expression not in criticism alone, but in creation, not in seeing only what is wrong, but in imagining what could be better. Have you felt the weight of seeing more than others? Have you struggled to belong in a world that seems blind to what appears obvious to you? If so, perhaps Nietzsche's journey offers not just warning, but reassurance that you're not alone in this experience, that others have navigated these same waters, and that your exceptional perception might become your greatest gift rather than your heaviest burden. Intelligence isn't just capability, it's responsibility. The mind that sees clearly assumes the obligation to create wisely. This is what Nietzsche meant by his concept of eternal recurrence, living in a way you could affirm eternally, transforming the burden of awareness into the privilege of creation. As we conclude, I'll leave you with Nietzsche's own words from The Gay Science. The secret of reaping the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment from life is to live dangerously. Your exceptional perception isn't a burden to be diminished, it's altitude. The challenge isn't to descend, but to learn to breathe the thinner air, to find stability not in limitation, but in mastery of your unique capacities. If you found value in this exploration, please help others discover it by liking this video and sharing it with those who might benefit. And in the comments, I'd love to hear about your own experiences navigating exceptional intelligence, the challenges you faced, and the practices that have helped you thrive. Until next time, remember that intelligence is a beautiful burden. Carry it well.